What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 44 of Nintendo Noise, Flipscreen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Chuy Plays.
Hello, hello.
And making her grand return to the pod, Sierra Plus Ultra.
Hi.
Welcome back, Sierra. How you doing?
Great. How are you? How are y'all doing?
I'm doing pretty good, you know? It's like we got a Nintendo Direct today. Xenoblade went in and I'm like...
Xenoblade Direct?
I'm not the biggest Xenoblade guy. I don't know. But, I got some things to say. I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought it was pretty interesting. And, of course, we're going to talk all about that on today's show. As well as maybe a couple other things, time permitting. But we've got a good one here. We're going to be talking about that there, Xenoblade 3. We're going to be talking, hopefully, a little bit about Fall Guys. So it's going to be a jam-packed one. Steve, unfortunately, could not join us today. He's out doing something for the Queen. Unfortunately, as a Brit, it's like any time the Queen calls, you've got to answer, right? So, nice thing, maybe he gets knighted, maybe he comes back. He's Sir Stephen Radford. Obviously, that opens up a lot of doors for us. We'll have to see what happens. But the three of us, I think we're gonna be more than enough to talk about Xenoblade this week. So I'm ready to jump into that. But before we do, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of June. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher. I'm gonna try that one again. Hold on, sorry. Christopher Valens, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Sobi, Mary Berry, Smilky Shake, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all are the reals to the real, and we appreciate your support of this fine program. If you want me to read your name wrong, you could become a Patreon producer. Head over to patreon.com/flipscreengames, where you can get a bunch of good perks and goodies, including early access to this and our sister show, Flipscreen Games. You can get access to our exclusive podcast, One More Thing. You can get all kinds of cool stuff. But of course, there's a lot of ways to show your support, even if you don't have any money to toss our way. Head over to flipscreen.games for links on all the places you can get involved. Come join the Discord, right into the show. Questions at flipscreen.games. However you choose to get involved, we greatly appreciate that you chose to spend your time with us this beautiful week. So, without any further delay, we had a Direct. It's been some time. Was it a game-specific Direct? Yes. Did it diminish my enthusiasm? No. I was pleasantly surprised by this Direct. As somebody who's never really been a Xenoblade guy, I saw a lot here that intrigued me. That definitely piqued my interest in a way that the previous coverage hasn't. Because, I think for me, JRPGs are a real case-by-case thing, right? Some of my favorite games of all time are JRPGs, but I bounce off of a lot of them. So Xenoblade's always been one I've kind of wanted to check out, but I've never felt super motivated. Coming out of this, I don't know, guys, I'm kind of thinking this might be my first one. I kind of feel like I want to take a stab at it.
Do it. I think you should. I've been playing them, I give you the updates. I'm over halfway now on the second one, so I think I will finish before the third one, but
you're chipping away.
Yeah, just a daily grind, I put some 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and then I'm like, oh, I'm actually making progress. Who knew? But yeah, no, they're fun. They're so anime. Everything about the stories are super convoluted, most anime thing that could possibly happen. But one thing that stood out to me on this is just how the combat is kind of changing in ways.
It
we'll
reminds me
more into it.
A lot of Dragon Age Origins, which I'm replaying right now, and I'm like, oh, I love that tactical shit. I love the idea of having 6 folks and just surrounding a monster and being like, okay, you do this, now you do that, now you do this, and then just watching it all happen. There's something about that that's very satisfying.
Yeah, and they all, both the other 2 games, or at least the other 3 games, if you count X as well, they tend to be 3-person parties, and they've always had that positioning aspect to the battles and everything. But this one, with 6 people, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be pretty different. 2's semi-controlling 6 people, but it's really just the blades, because I explained to you and Pete before, or you and Steve before, that Pyra and Mithra, the main characters, they're swords. Like they're actually crystals, but they're basically
Right.
a sword. They're not a girl.
Yeah, this lore totally makes sense. Right, I'm with you.
Very anime.
But yeah, like there's 6 people on screen, but like 3 of them are
just
actually
weapons.
controllable that you can yeah.
Well, here's the thing, I feel like I'm down. Like I've played Kingdom Hearts. I cared about that. I don't think there's anything weirder than that, right? So like, I might be able to, I could probably swallow this. Now, my question, Sierra, I know you're a big anime fan. Before we went live here, you said you were like, I don't know about this story. I don't know if it's vibing with me yet. Where are you at coming out of this direct? Like, I believe you're like me and you've not played the others, right? So this, like,
Right.
does it pique your interest? Do you like see yourself wanting to give it a shot, or does it feel like a little impenetrable?
Yes, like the way the story hit my ears was that it didn't at all, and I had to rewatch the trailer.
You're like, yeah, this battle system looks cool. What the fuck are they talking about?
I could pay attention during that part. But then this exposition, I'm like, it's cool, but like, it wasn't kind of like wowing me.
Yeah.
Not that it's not a good idea either. Like the premise that they're setting up. I couldn't. It wasn't gripping me. So, but the one thing I'll say is, overall as a package, before we get into like the details of everything we saw, I am way more into it than I thought I was gonna be.
Yep.
And this is coming from someone that has zero Xenoblade franchise awareness. And I guess it helps that I'm very into anime. So the game design definitely is very like cool. It looks really cool to me. And I think the story I just gotta rewatch it again. I just I missed like the dialogue was just like going in one ear out the other. I was like, okay, 2 parties quarreling, but like you're the cool rebels who say heck and play games.
The cool
with,
rebels who say heck. New band name, okay? That's our band now. The 3 of us are starting a
write
band.
that down.
We're the
Yes,
cool
let's
rebels
do
who
it.
say heck.
Wait, I love that. But yeah, I like the whole. I think over time I'll like get it. Like even with like Digimon, like as I'm playing like Survive, I don't understand everything at the entire time either.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying the gameplay. It'll all come with time. Basically, what I'm getting at is like I will probably get it. I don't know about on launch, but I'll probably get it.
But you're thinking about it. You could be convinced, which is, I think that's the thing with these directs,
That's a big
right?
step. Yeah.
It is. And I went into this thinking like, okay, I'm going to watch this on my lunch break and, I want to be ready to talk about it at the show. Chuy's excited about it, so I'll just interview him, right? And I was like, as I was watching, I was like, all right, this story sounds like kind of ridiculous, but when they got to the part where it was just like the actual characters like talking to each other, I was like, okay, like these guys have a fun vibe. Like, like I don't know. I like there's some chemistry here. Like, I don't know. Like I kind of like the whole idea of I like stories that subvert like tropes, and like this being a story about like, oh, like it's this war between these 2 countries and there's this whole, like weird, almost like post-apocalyptic type, like everyone's in this warrior society. And I was like, okay, like that seems interesting enough as like a sci-fi premise. But like the fact that the actual crux of the narrative is like all these, I think this is what the story's getting at, but to me, right, it's a bunch of workers, right, and like they realize like, oh, we're not really each other's enemy. The game is the folks making us fight to the death. Let's go kill them. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I like that. Like I'm into that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I love that you're picking up on a lot of that because I think that's like not that's really not unique to this game. Like all of them do a really good job of like building out their characters and stuff. They all have there's kind of like these heart to hearts that you'll run into throughout the game and everything that will have just like if you've raised characters' affinities enough or their relationships enough, they will talk to each other, and you'll see like more stories that build out those relationships, and they have so many for each of them.
So
It's
is there
wild.
like character dialogue? Because they showed the spots where you were like at the like campfire and everybody was like chatting and stuff. Like, do you get to make choices and like?
In that sense, a little bit. Like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I think, has more of that.
But it's like
than the
less.
first one.
It's less like social sim and more just kind of like I'm advancing the story and the characters are becoming friends kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It definitely less social sim, but they did show off like one thing that was from the first game, which is like the affinity chart, the bane of everybody's existence. But basically, you can talk to everybody in the world, most people in the world, and you're just like filling out this chart that's like a family tree thing. Like, oh, this person's connected to this person and they're friends, and oh, that's her daughter,
Okay.
and yeah, that kind of thing. So you really do have like a lot to follow in terms of the characters and the people in the world too. So. It's not so much social sim where you have different options. There's like minimal options, but it's really like, just, oh, here's how this conversation goes in this cutscene if you pick this thing,
Yeah,
So.
that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of hoping it would be like a little bit more of the like the social simmy like Fire Emblem Persona kind of thing, but
Yeah.
I thought that was based on what we had seen. I was like, it doesn't quite look like that, but.
Yeah, I'd say it's more of like you get a little bit extra story, a little bit more relationship building between the
Okay.
characters, but it doesn't like in Fire Emblem, like that's a very key thing where it's like, oh, these characters when they're close to each other and battling, they do a lot stronger moves or that sort of thing,
Yeah.
where it has a real effect like that. Not so much in this one.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's fine though, because I mean, I still like that. I like any story that's about people being friends. It's my favorite theme in things.
They do a great job with friendship in
so-
these games.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I like stories
One,
about the power of
literally the
friendship.
first game, the buddy duo of Shulk and Rain is beloved by everybody who played it.
Very nice. All right, so let's get into like some of the details real quick, and then we can like kind of talk about everything as we saw it. So like kind of the elevator pitch they gave for the story is that we're set in a world where there's this ongoing war between two nations called Agnes and I think it's Kieves or Keves, I'm not sure. The 6 main characters are 2 groups of 3 that are from these 2 warring nations. They're kind of sent on this special mission. They come in conflict with one another and like they're ready to like fight to the death. And then they have this reveal that there's this deeper thing going on that is kind of everything's being puppet mastered, and that the real enemy isn't the 2 nations. It's folks above that kind of controlling things. So we've got a group called Noah, who was like the sword guy. We had Uni, who was she had like the, I don't know what
I think
they're
it's
called.
like the gunner healer.
Yeah, and
person.
they're like the circular hand blades. I don't know what those are called, but
Oh yeah.
and then Lance he looked like the himbo guy, right? Like he's just like a big burly fucking dude.
Yeah.
We got Mio, who was, I think she was the one who had the cat ears, and then Taeon was the like nerdy dude. And then Cena is one of my favorite tropes in anime, which is just a tiny person with a fucking giant hammer. She's like I think they like described her that way too, where it's like, oh, she's really tiny, but she's like as powerful as like a giant or something. And I was like, great, that's hilarious, love that. And we said, right, you have control of all 6 characters, but then there's also this kind of additional optional characters for you to unlock that are called heroes. You can have 1 in your party at any time, so you can actually have 7 people with you. And then they had like a bunch of different ones that they showed off, and they all have their own like special class and everything that you can like learn from. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. But like one of the examples they gave was like this character Alexandria, who has like a class that's like all about inflicting more like critical hits and stuff like that. And then there's like when they were talking about the classes themselves, it's a kind of deceptively simple system that like gets really, really deep, where like each character fits into a basic like RPG class. It's like you're an attacker, a defender, or a healer. Pretty self-explanatory. But then within those, there are like subclasses. Like I said, there was the one guy who's like a sword boy, and like his whole thing is like, if you're a sword guy, it's like well-balanced attacks, you know, like primary DPS type character. Then they have like the Zephyr, which was like a defense specialist that's like all about counters. There's the healers, and their big thing is support and healing and buffs and all that kind of stuff. But like of the 6 characters you have at the start, each of them is a different subclass. So you have 2 attackers, 2 defenders, 2 healers, and then all of the different like heroes that you can find give you all these additional subclasses, and you can like cross, and any character can be any other class, and they can learn from that tree, and then like you can create like custom kind of build outs for them based on what skills you kind of want them to have. So there's like a lot of different customization options there. And like in the direct, it straight up said like it's recommended for you to switch around and have them do other things so that you can have like the most well-balanced party overall, which is interesting. It reminds me a lot of like Final Fantasy Tactics or like Bravely Default, you know, or something like that. And I like that in those games, but it is also a thing where I'm like, oof, Jesus, like there's so many systems going on here, right? Like I've already described 3 layers to this, and we're not even like halfway through the systems that are just like how you can build out your character, which is insane. But my understanding is that Xenoblade kind of like drip feeds those things pretty well. So it's not like, hey, here's 100 systems. It's like you're kind of learning as you go. So hopefully that's not something that's going to like feel, you know, alienating to newer players.
Right.
But then you have special abilities that are called like arts, and those are like your activated abilities basically, and they're all mapped to a face button on your controller, and you can string them together to like make combos where you can like knock enemies down and then like launch them in the air and then like slam them back down, and like that's like a specific, you know, kind of like battle strategy. But then you can also like chain attacks together that are called like fusion attacks, and that's like using 2 separate attacks with different characters that have like a combo kind of ability. So there's like a lot of ability for you to like strategize and kind of combine different tactics and like maximize like how your team is working together, which is definitely interesting.
Yeah. And the fusion one is that one's new to me, at least for, I haven't encountered that in like the Xenoblade games thus far. Maybe it's later in 2 or something, but I don't know. I don't think so. But that one gave me like, that was Tales vibes right there. Like if you ever gotten into that battle system,
Definitely.
You get a lot of different cool like fusion, powered up arts in that. So I was excited to see that.
Yeah. I it's like, it's one of those things that I think, like, if you're in it, it's going to be really rewarding over the course of, like, 100 hours to be like, oh, there's so much depth to this. And, like, there's a lot of opportunity for experimentation and kind of, like, discovering new combos that work for you and all that kind of stuff, which I like a lot. Like, I like a battle system that allows you to kind of express, like, your preferred strategy rather than, like, this is the right way to play, you know? I do appreciate that. And like we said, it's real time. You can control all the characters at once and like switch between them freely and like set their attacks up and everything. And then there's one other bit that they talked about, which is Aurora Boros linking, which is like you'll have 2 party characters that like will fuse into this like mech creature.
This is the Digimon part.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of, what is it, season 2 of Digimon, where they had the humans and the Digimon would fuse, and they would
I think
do.
they started doing
that
it
3?
like Tamers.
That was 3?
That was Tamers.
But
Okay.
in 2 they did DNA Digivolution. 3 is like where they would fuse with the humans.
So it reminds me of that a little bit, right? Where
And then in 4, it was like the people are Digimon.
that one I never watched because I did not
Digimon
like that.
are people.
I was like, I'm not into this. This is a bridge too far for me. When the kids were just fusing with the monsters, that was fine, but I don't like all this. So yeah, they turn into these like crazy mech monsters, and this is another weird thing where it's like, so they're like specific character combinations can do this. There's I guess 3 sets of them, but then depending on which character is chosen to be the dominant, it's like the person who controls it, right? Like you both fuse together, but only one person is in control of the body, which is weird. And you can choose which one it is, and they have different abilities based on what that is. So like if one of them's like a defender and one of them's attacker, and you pick the attacker one, it'll be more offensive. The defender would be more defensive, right? Just for the sake of example. So like basically you kind of want to choose which version you're using based on like what the situation is and like what you need. And it's like a temporary like time-based thing where it's basically like a short power up, and you have to like take the most advantage of it in the fight before the timer runs out, and you know everything reverts back to normal. But then they can also be involved in the chain attacks that we talked about. So there's like a whole other level to that. So this is what I was talking about, right? Like
there's combos, there's chain attacks, there's auto attacking.
I was joking about this with my friend who was like reached out to me and was kind of like, oh, like did you check it out? Like what'd you think? And I was like, yeah, like it looks cool, but it's like very confusing, and like there's so much going on, and like that was definitely the biggest thing for me, which was just kind of like, oh yeah, like okay, there are 6 characters, but just kidding, there's actually 7 to 14 characters, and each of them have a class, but then they also have subclasses, and they can also make hybrid classes, and then they have power-ups, but then they also have chain combos, but then they can also fuse and have even different, it's like, there's so many things. There's so many levels to this.
Yeah, there are so many things.
And
so
it's like,
weird.
Okay, like I'm into it, but it's definitely like a little bit like I feel like I needed this. I feel like I needed like a 20-minute presentation for you to explain everything for me to be like, all right, I get it. I get what this game is like moment to moment on some level.
Right.
Yeah. And there really is a lot. Like in 2, I think it drip feeds all of these systems to you like over the course of 4 chapters or so. Which I think when I beat chapter 4 or something, I was probably like 40 hours in. So there are just like tons and tons of tutorials as you go. And yeah, you're just like, how do they keep adding more stuff that I can do in this? And it's never ending.
So while we're on the subject of the combat specifically, right? Sierra, I want to go back to you because you had said that you were like, the story was kind of like, you know, you said not necessarily like grabbing you right away, but you did feel like you were interested in the combat right away. So what about the combat stuck out to you? Like what about it did you think was appealing?
I was so shocked that your party is so huge. And that really excited me, because, yeah, like, I don't know, I'm a very, like, hack and slash kind of guy. Maybe I'll go for, like, DPS, but maybe I'll try out being a healer or defensive. Like, it feels like you can get lost in so much of the battle mechanics and the battle system, which excites me. Normally overwhelms me and will probably still overwhelm me, but still really excites me. And then the Ouroboros thing is crazy. I was not expecting that. And I look forward to like actually like getting the game in my hands and like seeing how that feels or how that plays into the actual like the format of the battle itself.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested, like, is there like a gauge for that? Is that a thing I can do like
Right.
every battle? Is it a thing that like you can really only do if it's like a long, like I do have questions about that. I'm pretty interested to see like how involved some of the things they showed us are, like the chain orders and stuff like that. Like, are these things I'm doing every time I get an encounter, or you know, am I clowning out low-level enemies so quickly that it's like not relevant, you know?
Yeah, like I imagine it comes along at a certain point in the story, like, oh, you can do this now. So I guess like the first a good while of the first like few hours will be just like getting a feel for the battle system. Yeah, this is a scenario where like I'm actually like, are they gonna drop a demo? I'm very interested in the demo.
I wish they had announced one today.
yeah.
I feel like it would have been really cool if they did the like the thing that I feel like Square does a lot now, where it'll be like oh, we got a demo and it's like the first 3 hours of the game or whatever, and you can carry your
Right.
progress over. Like that would be really appreciated. I feel like after today to be able to just jump in and kind of like get a taste for what the game's actually like, you know?
Yeah,
Right.
this feels like one of those ideal like trial period games, like because they've done
Yeah.
that in the past with the Switch Online plan. I'm like, just give people a trial period so they can give this a go and see if it's for them, because it's definitely got a lot going on, and
Mhm.
it's a huge investment because I expect this to be probably another 100-hour game for me.
Yeah, I like the exhale when you said that.
Yeah. I thought 2 was gonna go faster for me, but then I finished chapter 5 at like 50 hours, and I'm like, oh, I know there's 10 of these.
Right.
So,
That's
yeah.
the thing. Like this seems again like it's gonna be a really grindy game. A game that I really enjoyed. That I haven't finished. I plan on it, but just because it's a game that involves a lot of like very intricate battle tactics is like Octopath Traveler, and people
Mhm.
complain about that being too grindy. Dropped it for that reason. I wonder if those same people will also stay away from this game, or if maybe this is presented in a way that is more like I don't know, like it's a little more friendly to people who are like first timers with
Yeah.
maybe like a more in-depth JRPG.
I feel like that's a good call out, and like I feel like Octopath is interesting because like I know for me I went from really liking it to burning out on it early because I was like, damn, I really have to do 8 hours of the beginning of this game, huh?
Yeah.
And like that really turned me off, and like and I
Mhm.
feel like when I think about what the difference is for me between a big meaty like 100+ hour JRPG that I get into versus one that I don't is usually like how much do I enjoy the moment to moment gameplay, right? Which for Octopath was actually a lot. But also like how well is it broken up? And that's a thing that I think like when I think about, in recent memory, what are the JRPGs that have really like left an impression on me or really got me to like to bite and get into it. And it's Persona 5 and it's Fire Emblem Three Houses, and both of them have what I think is the key to a good JRPG is like a satisfying, or any RPG really, is a satisfying loop, right? And like it's the same reason I like Dragon Age, it's the same reason I like Mass Effect. I really like when a game like when I go and do like a big chunk of gameplay and I've been doing a bunch of battles and optimizing and everything, I want to have that period of like, okay, I'm back at camp and I can like talk to my companions and advance the story, or like debrief and be like, oh my god, we just went on this adventure, how do you feel about that, here's and then like do the inventory management thing and like go and like level all my guys up in the menus and be like, I found new sword, should I switch this stuff out? Like I was playing Dragon Age the other day, like yesterday, I think, for like maybe 2 or 3 hours, and I like finished a big chunk of the game, and then I spent 2 hours talking to companions, leveling everybody up, and doing inventory management, and I was like, oh, good, this is like a nice way to come down after a big chunk of the game, and then I can get back into it, and like I loved that about like Persona and Fire Emblem was having that ability to be like, oh, I'm back at the monastery, or oh, okay, it's my day off, so it's time to go explore the city and like do something aside from the same combat loop over and over again, and like the fact that this has so many different classes and like all this stuff to keep it fresh, I feel like that's going to help me at least stay invested in it over time, because like as I learn more, I can get deeper into the combat, and it does seem like there's actually a story here and like things that I'm interested in seeing how they play out. So I feel like that
Right.
will go a long way for me from like avoiding that fatigue.
And I'd say this direct definitely felt focused on the combat, but I think it's like Monolith is so good at building out worlds. I felt like they almost like didn't get into that quite enough. They did say like you can find all these secret areas, but I actually get really lost in this game most of the time just from exploration. Like, I love going through the world and finding all the secret places and all that sort of thing. And every time you find a new location, that actually gives you experience points too. So, like, if you don't want to do the battle grind to level up your people, like, you can just go and explore the world, and that'll get you just as much toward, like, the next level as battling people for an hour or something. So that's often a lot quicker. And then there's a lot of like side quests, and the towns are so well built out that you can just find a ton to do. Like this, one huge thing in both the other games is just like shops and all of the different equipment you can buy, all the different things that you can buy that go towards your characters as well. So yeah, I expect that we'll get a lot of that too. So I don't think you'll be mainly focused on the grind of like battling and attacking enemies and all that sort of thing, but there's definitely stuff that breaks it apart and does that. And I think their quests over time have improved. Like the big problem with side quests in the first game is just like they're all like find this thing, bring it to this person. They're all fetch quests. With two, they've got a good variety of things going on. There's still a lot of like fetch questing, a lot of people like telling you to go here, go there, but others are like, oh, you just ran into this person who's getting attacked by some huge monsters, like fend them off kind of thing. So yeah, there's really a lot to get lost in with the game, and I think that's why, yeah, these games are never like 50 hours for me. They're always like 100+ hours because I get distracted by all of those things.
I'm into that, you know? Like, if the game delivers on that stuff, that's my shit, you know? Like, I love a game that pushes me to do everything that there is to do, you know? So that does sound appealing. So before we get into kind of, I guess, more of our reactions and stuff, there was one last little kind of bit of info. They announced that there's going to be an expansion pass as well as a collector's edition. The expansion pass is going to cost $30 American, $26.99 in pound, or is that euros? That's pounds. Somewhere in between there for euros. I'm not quite sure on the conversion there. Apologies to the European listeners. I don't love this expansion pass. It has a bunch of stuff, right? There's going to be at launch, there will be some items, quote unquote, helpful items that you get, as well as some like color variations for outfits. By the end of 2022, there's going to be a new challenge battle, and then new heroes and quests, or might be a new hero and quests. And then as well as some new outfits as well. And then there's also going to be, by the end of April 2023, there'll be another new challenge battle, hero, quests, and outfits. So altogether, like 2 sets of those. And then at the end of 2023, there's going to be a brand new story scenario. So that's, you know, significant piece of story DLC. And the reason I don't like this is if you were an eagle-eyed viewer or you watched the direct more than once, there is a little disclaimer at the bottom where it says that the DLC could not be purchased separately. So if you want the story stuff that's not coming for over a year, you've got to get locked into this $30 expansion. And that really sucks, personally.
I didn't see that.
Because, you know, granted, maybe it will be a thing that comes with Nintendo Online, in which case, you know, that doesn't necessarily make me feel better about the price, but it at least allows me to sidestep the problem that I'm encountering. But I don't love that, because I don't ever like things like that. Like the whole, like, oh, you get items that make the game easier. I don't want the game to be easier. I want to play the game the normal way. Color variations for outfits, that's not worth real money 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
The new challenge, the new hero, the new outfits, like, I don't know. Those things could be worthwhile, but I haven't played the game. I'm certainly not excited by the prospect of spending money on those things when I don't really have a sense for how valuable they'll be in the actual game. The only thing of these that I would definitely be interested in is the new story content. And it's like, am I still going to be playing the game in the end of April 2023? Am I going to take advantage of any of this stuff except for the story DLC way later? Like, I don't know. It just feels it feels bad. And like I would rather have the ability to be like whole thing's $30 or maybe each one's $10, right? Like let me pick and choose a little bit, you know?
I agree.
I kind of wonder if it'll be included in the Switch expansion pack just because it's $29.99 instead of the $24.99 that those DLC packs usually go into.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
Wouldn't they say that today? Wouldn't they have said that?
That's
feel like
probably
they
a good
would've said.
point because I feel like they've done that with every other thing where they've been like, here's DLC, it's coming to right? Like they did that with Happy Home Designer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mario Kart was
Yeah.
the same way. You're probably right.
As soon as, the only one that's been like retroactively done was the Octo expansion from Splatoon 2,
right?
because that had been out forever, you know.
Right.
But
So I don't
outside
know.
of that, nothing.
Maybe they bring it later and maybe they don't want to announce it now because they want you to buy it, but that's also not great.
That's another good point.
It's tough. It's tough. I think either way, it feels bad. It's not a great price point. And it's like, from my understanding, the expansions for previous Xenoblades have been freaking huge. So like, it's not even to say that it's not worth the money per se, but like, I don't like when the only way to get story DLC is to buy an expansion pass that includes a bunch of shit I don't want. Like, that's always frustrating to me. And it's like, certainly not a thing that's unique to Nintendo or Xenoblade. It's just like, it's kind of a bummer. You know, like this is the first DLC pack that I feel like Nintendo has hawked where I'm like, I don't know that this is worth it. You know, I think more often they give you a lot for of bang for your buck. And I don't know that I see that here.
Yeah. But I'll tell you right now, looking at what they listed as what you're getting and looking at the image for it, the new characters are Shulk and Rex.
Oh, okay.
Definitely, like one of those blades in that image is the Monado from the first game, and the other one is the Aegis, which is like the sword that Pyra and Mithra come out of. So
okay.
Just looking at the image, I'm like, oh, it's definitely going to be them.
That's cool. I mean, I could see that being cool. I could see people popping for that. So, you know, again, like I'm not really trying to like talk smack. It's just like I saw that and that definitely didn't feel great. And I wasn't alone in that. We had a comment here from Wakahula, one of our Patreon producers, who wrote in and said, everything I've seen in this trailer hyped me up even more. I really like Xenoblade 2 and Xenoblade HD, but this one looks even more exciting. Fusions, tons of over-the-top combos, kaiju battles, a quote-unquote mature story. I'm in. The only thing bugging me is that the story DLC won't be out until the end of 2023. And yeah, like that does sting. I mean, hopefully it points to the fact that it'll be substantial. But like coming a whole year and a half later is like, geez.
Exactly.
It's already
Make an
hard.
Investment.
Yeah, right? And it's
Make
like
investment now, a year and a half in advance.
It's like, do you want to drop $90 on the chance that you might go back to that game in a year and a half?
Right? That is so daunting. Like, if you told me right now, buy a game for $60, and if you want the DLC, you can buy it later for like $30. Okay. Buy the game now for $90. What the fuck?
Yeah, like it. And it's like you said, right? Like you could do it that way. No one's making you do it. But like the upfront, you're like, damn, that's a lot. Like $90, huh? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. There is one sneaky thing in the wording. The brand new story scenario says releasing by December 31st, 2023. So it's like they could bring it out earlier.
They did move this game up, right? So I guess that could happen.
Yeah, which is how did they do that? But I will say, like, I'm getting this sneaking suspicion that something cool is going to happen in 2024. That's why all the DLC is ending then, like the Mario Kart stuff, scheduled to go through 2023.
Switch 2, baby.
I'm like, yeah, Switch 2, 2024. Gotta happen.
I think you're right. I think you're right on the money. Honestly.
Right, like if it's not this year and it's not going to be next year, it's going to be 2024.
And I feel like it almost can't be next year, right? Like I feel like it makes way more sense in my mind, right? And like I've been wrong before, a lot. But
we've all been wrong before.
But like I feel like the idea of them announcing it, hell, maybe they even mention it this year, right? Where they're like, because you think about that's what happened with Switch, right? And granted, Switch was a different story. Wii U was a failure. They were eager to pivot, sure.
Mhm.
But we knew about NX, right? About 18 months out, I feel like it was roughly, maybe a little more. And then it was like, okay, here's the Switch reveal. Or no, not even that. We got, hey, we're working on NX, our next console. We're going to show it to you in a few months. Okay, cool. Then we got the first look at it, and then we got a release date. I don't feel like that's crazy, the idea that they might follow a similar trajectory next year, where it's like, hey, Switch 2, whatever we're going to call it, it's on the way. Keep your eyes peeled. We get an event late 2023, 2024, Q1, it drops. Similar timeline to the Switch. You got a big game at launch. You got a big game that fall. I don't know. Maybe wishful thinking, but I think you're onto something. I do.
The shared Mario game between both consoles.
I mean, maybe. It's probably Breath of the Wild, though, right? It always seems to be a Zelda game.
Yeah.
Could be Metroid Prime 4, though, as well. You never know.
Good choice.
I'd mess around with that. All right, pause real quick. Sierra, I have to ask you a question that is not related to video games. Is that a My Neighbor Totoro mug?
Yes, it is.
Hell yes. I love that.
Awesome.
Did you get that in LA?
I did not. I've had this for years. Jeremiah got it for me for Christmas.
It's fucking adorable.
I think,
Love
no.
it.
Him or my roommate. One of them. But
Somebody.
somebody in my house.
Someone I
gave me
love.
this mug. I don't know who it is, but it's mine now.
Love it.
So I guess just to put a pin on this, and then we'll get into some more of the questions, right? We also have the collector's edition that's coming on the 29th. It has an art book and a steel book.
Which was a mess.
What?
Did you all see like what happened with Nintendo's site when they put that up for sale?
No, I knew it was exclusive
it
to the
crash?
Nintendo store, but I don't know what happened. What happened?
It just like completely crashed everything. Some people were able to get their orders, but they like at the end of the day they were just like, we're sorry for what happened with our website today. We will put it up again at a later date. Like they're just like, we're gonna put it up.
Okay.
Somehow. But yeah, it was just like I sat there all day, had the page open. I was like, this thing's never gonna load for me, and because I was trying to just see if I could grab one, but nope, nothing for me. So it was a mess.
Look
People
out for
were
round
panicking for the entire day. They were just like every single part of the site that had to do with like checking out with an item to purchase was just broken. You couldn't go to the page. It was like, no, we're sorry, we're going under maintenance now. And then people tried to go to their carts, and it was like, nope, there's nothing here. So, yeah, it was bad.
That's hell. I hate that.
The next day, just a funny side thing. They had posted a job for like a web developer.
We need
I don't think
somebody
it
with
was like
e-commerce
related to them.
experience.
I didn't look at the listing. I don't think it was like related to them actually getting the website to work more. I think it was more like design type of thing. But I thought that was hilarious.
You're like, son of a bitch. That's great. So now that we've gotten through all the announcements, right? Like I want to get a temperature check from each of you. Coming off this direct, like, are we hype? Is this a day one thing? Are you keeping an eye out for reviews, sales? Like, where are we at? And I'm gonna pull a question here. This one comes from one of our Patreon producers, Smilky Shake, who wrote in and said, and the question was, right, like, how are we feeling about this? Y'all hype? Like, how's the community? How we feeling about this? And Smilky said, oh my God, yes, so hyped. I watched it on stream with people and was freaking out the whole time. I've played every Xenoblade, and this one looks like it's going to mash everything from 1 and 2 together in such a big way. I guess my question would just be, what is all of you guys' experience with the series, and which member of the new bunch sticks out to you the most? I think we've got an exceptionally solid cast this time around. So, Chuy, you've played 1. You're in the middle of 2. Sierra and I are both fresh on it, not touched it. Steve's the same way. He's also never done the Xenoblades. So we're all...
Who knows if he ever will.
It's gonna. I think there is really
Watch
gonna.
him
If we buy
pick it up,
he'll buy
and
it.
it's his favorite game of all of the year.
The thing is, Chewy, with Steve, you truly never know, right? He'll pick it up and he'll either be like, I played it for 10 minutes. It's not for me. I don't get why anyone would like this. Or he'll be like, it's the best game I ever played. It's game of the year. And those are the two extremes. This is the dichotomy of Steve. So I have no idea, but we'll see what happens. Maybe if Sierra and I both get it, in addition to you, and people in the community are playing it, he'll get FOMO and he'll buy it. And then we'll see what happens from there. Who knows?
That's also very Steve.
Yes.
That's such a Steve move. No, I'm right there with Smoky Shake. I'm hyped for it. I think
you're not burnt out.
No, surprisingly enough, I'm not.
Good.
I've been actually like really into it lately. The only, I guess, burnout feeling I felt was way at that little portion before the end game of the first game, where I was just like, why is this guy just bugging me? Like, let me just fight you and move on with my life. I'm 100 hours deep. I don't have time for this anymore. I just want to finish the game. Outside of that point, like, I've just been consistently like into the Xenoblade. Like after that, some weird stuff happened. It was one of the greatest anime endings of all time in the first game, and I was like, all right, I'm in for the second one. I wanted to start it right away.
I took my shirt off. I'm having a great time.
It's wild what happens at the end there. Look it up for yourselves if you want to. I won't spoil it for anybody who actually wants to play.
Do I need to know anything about the last two games? Is that a thing?
I will.
It's like Final Fantasy, right? Kind of, where it's just like it's more anthological.
Yeah, I'd say it just like it picks up and it does. It has its own story that I think like you'll follow. You'll be satisfied with that experience and that sort of thing. There are like minor callbacks to the older games and stuff. Like when I watched this direct, I was like, oh, look at these. They look like Mechon from the first game, and all of these weapons look like all the weapons they used in the blades used in Xenoblade 2. So there's like little, things that call back to all of that stuff. And I'm sure if you run into anything from previous games, they'll do like, the little exposition piece. It's like, oh yeah, remember this? If you don't, well, here it is.
Here's a YouTube video.
I don't think you'll get lost following it. I think you'll be fine to play it. But yeah, overall, I'm just like, yes, I'm pumped. As far as like which cast member I like right now, I like Mio. I think she's got a cool design, kind of the cat ears one.
Yes.
But that's also because like one of my favorite characters right now is like Cat Ears Girl in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. She's hilarious. Love her accent. Can't get enough of it.
I think literally my only issue with any of the character designs is I feel like she and the main female lead, like the one with the blades, I feel like their designs are like kind of similar, and I'm like, which one is which? I'm sure that won't be a problem
a little
in game.
bit similar.
But I'm like, you're both like pretty fair skinned and like a similar haircut, and it's just kind of like, I don't know who's who, but I'm sure in context it'll be fine. It's like, you got cat ears? All right, okay, I know who's who. What about you, Sierra? Where are you at with it?
So, the characters that stand out the most to me are like Noah and Uni. Like, I think all the character design in this game is really cool. I will probably I'll probably get it. I just don't think it's gonna be day one. Like, they would have to drop some like more insane game info for me to really want to, or like a demo so I can like see for myself how I will enjoy it. Cause like I think it definitely seems like it's gonna be worth the $60 price point. It's just like, can I justify myself spending that on this game, this franchise I would be jumping into like for the first time?
That's always tough, where it's like,
right?
Is this a $60 experiment I want to take, or
right? So I definitely am more interested in it than I thought I was going to be. But I think I'm just gonna kind of wait and see. I'll like watch some like first few hours gameplay on like friends' streams and whatnot, and come to a decision after then.
You'll come back
Probably
on Nintendo Noise the week it's out, and Chewy and I will talk about it, and you'll be like, damn, I should have got it on day one.
right. I know that's my fear, but that's fair. That's fair. Definitely not getting the DLC.
Nah.
If I was like a Xenoblade fanatic, that would be an instant buy. I am definitely not getting it regardless.
I think the DLC sounds like a thing you could probably wait on, honestly. Like if you ended up getting it, playing it, loving it, and then you're like, oh, I kind of want more of this, that'll be maybe by then, because these games sometimes take years to complete.
Right.
Maybe by then you'll be like, okay, there's this new story here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing you could do, Sierra, is if you play it on stream, that'll naturally pace it out, right? Because it's like you only play a couple hours a week, and it's a 100-hour game. By the time you'll still be in the middle of the game by the time the DLC comes out.
True. True.
Mm-hmm.
Chewy, would you say that like there's a lot you could do like if I wanted to stream it? Is there a lot you could do off stream as well that won't like
Oh,
like,
for
people
sure.
won't miss story
You
beats?
could probably just do like the side quests and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There,
Like,
there's
grind it out.
tons of side quests. I've got like 4 pages of side quests right now on my game. Each page has like 6 quests or so it's not like it's a lot once you reach 4 pages. But
That's
yeah.
really important for a good open game like that. Open world or big RPG, like whatever. Like I feel like that's important.
Mhm.
Like I like having a mixture of like, okay, like this is a big meaty thing. Like this is a very like low stakes like bullshit thing. Like I like being able to like oscillate between like I feel like advancing the story and I feel like existing in this world and checking boxes right now.
You just the fact that you said open world just triggered this because I watched this whole thing and realized that there was like no mention of Titans in this because those play a huge role in the other games. This one, it seemed to like really point out that like you are in one big area that you can just explore. Like it seemed more open in the sense of like the first game had all these different sections. Like you lived on Bionis, which was this huge Titan, and then you eventually go and make it to the other Titan, Mechonis, and that sort of thing. Not a huge story spoiler. You're gonna guess that by playing it that you're gonna end up there eventually. So and in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, like everybody still lives on Titans and that sort of thing. They're a little smaller than those original Titans that you run into. So this one's like, where are my Titan friends? Are they all gone? Are they dead?
I kind of get
on?
I kind of get that sense because it's like they said the thing about like there's like one of the things that they talked about was like there's this like giant sword that pierced the world, and then like they have all these giant mechs and everything. I'm wondering if this is like post that, like have all of those been killed off or like disappeared? Like maybe that big organization has something to do with it. I don't know. I'm spitballing.
Yeah.
I know nothing.
And that
about
might
this
be
game, but
yeah, and that might be a gap in my knowledge too, because I haven't finished the second game quite
Sure.
yet. But I do know like one of the big like story beats is like, oh, the Titans are slowly dying off right now. So I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I guess we'll see. You'll have to let us know if you figure that out. But like, there's also the thing where there's like those big mechs that are like movable warships, and like they kind of look like monsters.
Mechon are back.
I'm
They're
wondering.
like the first
Yeah, it's
game,
like, is that a nod? I don't know. Yeah, it's like it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. So to answer the question, I feel like the characters that stick out to me the most are. I mean, I like all of them. I feel like they all have a pretty good design. I feel like I kind of like the chemistry that it feels like they're hinting at between the two leads of the team. The sword boy and the hand blade
Noah
lady.
and Uni.
Yeah. I am interested by that. Like I kind of like the whole like their societies seem very different. One seems more techie, one seems more naturalistic. Like the whole like Romeo and Juliet, will they, won't they? I'm like, yeah, I could vibe with that. Like that seems cool. You know, I'm interested in that. But I also really like I said, I like the trope of the tiny person who has a giant hammer. So I like her too. I don't remember her name, but
I think it's like Senna or Cena.
yeah, I think that's right. I have it written down somewhere. But yeah, and her class is called the Ogre. So I'm like, okay, yeah, like she seems cool. I do dig that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know. I'm on the fence. I'm not sure if it's a day one grab for me yet, but I'm feeling like maybe. Like, I think if it comes out and it has like relatively, high scores and everything like that, feel like I'm gonna feel pretty hard pressed to resist it because there's not a lot else going on right now, and I've been very like, I'm excited to play old games right now, but also like. I wouldn't mind a new thing. It's kind of giving me similar vibes to how I felt about Fire Emblem, where like with Three Houses, I very much was like, I've never played a Fire Emblem. I have a lot of friends who've said I should and that I would like it and like really want me to give it a shot. Why don't I try it? And I'll commit to trying this one. I'm going to buy it going in with the full expectation that I'm going to Steve this and bounce off of it in like under 20 hours, but at the very least I can say I gave it the old college try, and if it's not for me, the next time someone brings it up, I can be like, hey, I tried it, it wasn't for me. And then it became my game of the year.
Fire Emblem is 100% for you.
I would love for this to give me a repeat, right? Like,
Right.
do you feel like this is for me in the same way, Chuy? Like, do you see this appealing to me, or do you think it's a harder sell?
I think you'd like it, but I kind of wonder how you'd feel about it once you get into it. And I don't know, because it is like a big time commitment for sure,
Yeah.
and things are pretty huge. So yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that you would like about it, but I don't know. I don't know how you'd feel about
That'll
it
stick it
overall.
out.
And I'll say like at the same time, like I keep remembering the release date, and I'm like, oh man, Digimon Survive, same time.
I was gonna buy that instead of this, and now I'm like, fuck,
Also
I don't
really
know.
anime. Also really anime,
don't
but
know.
more like tactics driven. And I know you like tactics style games.
do.
And I'm like, ugh, and I'm into that too. So I'm gonna see how I feel once I finish the second one. I'm planning on doing like the DLC stuff, and I'm like, am I gonna be burnt out? And am I gonna want to start right away on the next Xenoblade, or is Digimon Survive gonna be calling me?
Is Digimon Survive
So funny.
coming to Xbox Game Pass?
I don't know.
Say what you were gonna say,
I don't
Sierra. I'm
know.
gonna look this up.
I was gonna say it's so funny. I wish that Digimon Survive had the mechanics of Xenoblade 3. I'm
Oh.
trepidatious about the whole Digimon chess thing, but I'm going to play it because I love Digimon so much.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like
Well, I
it's...
hope they do it well, because I think like Fire Emblem overall, years ago, old Fire Emblem, I understand why people didn't get into it. I mean, I liked it because I really like the tactics thing and the very brutal nature of the older Fire Emblems, where they're like permadeath, you can't turn that off, you're gonna lose as somebody, And I like that aspect to it. But I do think the stuff that they've added to it over time, especially with Three Houses, that has like all of these like relationship mechanics and stuff, where that just like breaks up that gameplay.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot more digestible for people. So I hope, I just hope Digimon gets that kind of treatment, because I think like straight tactics, I understand the hesitation from some people. I get that it's not for everybody. Me personally, I wouldn't be bothered by it, but I really
No,
want
I'll
people to
definitely
like
still
this
like
next one.
because
Yeah.
I beat Wargroove on hard, so yeah, I love that
Yeah.
shit. I love it. It's like, punish me, like give me the toughest tactics that I can stand. I'm into it.
Mhm.
I remember
Yeah.
the last level of that game. I like literally, I think it was like 2 weeks where every night I tried to beat the last level and you would get over an hour in and then wipe and be like, cool, time for bed. I don't have enough time to try this again. And I never got frustrated with it. So I'm very ready. I'm ready for that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of forgot they were at the same time. That's a problem for me.
Same exact day
That sucks.
release. Yeah.
God, that sucks. Okay.
I'm
All right.
pumped. Those are probably like two of my most anticipated games for this year. So
Are you gonna do it,
outside of
Chuy?
Splatoon,
Are you double
3,
dipping?
yeah.
You getting both of
How
them?
are you gonna
Oh,
divide
yeah.
your time? What's the
Look,
plan?
I'm invested in both of them. I'm getting them.
I respect
Do you
it.
think you'll play one on the 29th and then the other the next day? You gonna like sink a couple hours into both on release day?
I think right now I feel like I'd like switch back and forth. Maybe
All right.
morning with Digimon, evening with Xenoblade. We'll see.
The thing that's interesting to me is I could see myself playing both at the same time since they have very different paces. Like I could see Xenoblade being the kind of thing I'd rather play on like the TV, have maybe a little bit better performance and draw distance, and like, Digimon is something like I see myself playing in handheld, and like tactical gameplay works really well. Like when it's like, hey, like, I'm tired. I don't want something that's like action oriented. I want to just like make choices, and like, Sierra says like play Digimon chess. Like, yeah, like that sounds good. Like I like to wind down with that kind of game,
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's the right idea because like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 in handheld does not look great.
3 is gonna look even worse.
Definitely a huge dip in quality there. So
yeah.
Every time I load the game, I see all the stuff underneath all the textures.
Oh.
Nintendo, you really gotta put out another Switch here. Okay.
Nintendo.
Like we really.
2024 Switch 2.
We really need another Switch. All right. All right. So last question I want to ask before we move on here. What do you think that like odds are that this game comes out and like really makes waves? Because I feel like it has a chance to be kind of a surprise hit for Nintendo. Because like obviously it's a slow year for Nintendo in general comparatively, but like there's not a lot else out at all, right? Like, Steve and I had a conversation about this on the Flip Screen show recently where we were kind of like, so does like Elden Ring just get Game of the Year? Because there's like nothing else to compete. Like the only other really major release we've had this year has been Horizon. And like Elden Ring's going to beat Horizon. I loved Horizon. Elden Ring's going to beat it. And like, I mean, God of War seemingly maybe still happening, but maybe not.
Apparently they're saying it is, but we'll see.
Right, and like Cory Barlog just tweeted about it this week and been like, seemingly being like, yeah, no, it's still coming. So like, there are other things that could come out here, but even if that does, well, there's still a spot in that top 5, isn't there? Like, could this be it? Like, I don't know. I'm wondering if this could be like a big coming out party for Xenoblade in the way that Three Houses was for Fire Emblem, where it made Fire Emblem feel more mainstream than I think it has in the past. I wonder if this has that same potential.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the big question will be like how comfortable people feel with that number 3 at the end of the title. Sequels tend to be like, oh, do I have to commit my time to playing all of the other games, which I've already heard are very long games, So if that doesn't scare people off and people just feel like, oh yeah, you can hop into this game and not need to play the others, then I'm sure it might do well. But you never know. There's still a huge segment of people that are like, anime. You know what I mean?
That's
true. It's true.
The way it like rubbed off on me was like, I feel like I can just jump in. Like it seems like the games, like maybe there are aspects that are maybe good to go back to previous games for, but it seems kind of episodic. Like I can just like hop into a fresh new story and like not have to have any prior knowledge of previous like plot lines and stuff.
It feels a lot to me like the way I feel about like Final Fantasy, where it's like every Final Fantasy is its own game, but like, oh yeah, I recognize chocobos, right? Like, oh yeah, like
yeah.
I know what the black mage looks like, right? Like, oh, Vivi looks like a black mage, right? Okay, sure, yeah. Like, there's dots for you to connect, but it's like not that deep. It's not like, yes, like good thing I know who Kefka is from Final Fantasy 6 going into 16, right? Like, it's not like that, And I think if people can wrap their head around that, maybe this can be the thing that pushes it over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the other thing I wonder, because I think they did, like, when they first announced it, one of the big focuses in the story messaging was like, this is it. This is the one where you connect all of the worlds, connect Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2. What really happened? What went down? So to some extent, I'm like, I don't know if it feels like this game is so focused on completing that story or bringing that story to some sort of conclusion. I don't know. But this conversation also did remind me, like, Xenoblade Chronicles X feels like MMO version of Xenoblade before, but not quite because, it's Nintendo. They can't, I don't think they could really pull that off, especially not on the Wii U kind of thing. But like, if we saw that be the future of Xenoblade, I'd be like, that's pretty cool. Because there was like a cool character creator at the beginning of X I'd forgotten about until you mentioned all of these mechanics. And I was like, yeah, this could be like Final Fantasy 14 and just be like huge stories that get added over time. So,
Man, imagine if Nintendo had functional online. That would be cool.
if only.
So that's a great transition point into what we're playing this week. And what we're playing this week is Fall Guys Season 1. So both Chuy and Sierra jumped back into Fall Guys since we got our kind of soft relaunch of the game, right? Epic acquired Fall Guys, and I can't remember the name of the studio right now, but the devs behind it just a couple months ago, and a little bit more, maybe a year ago now. And the game is going free to play. It is getting launched on both Switch and Xbox after not being on those platforms for a long time. It's getting delisted on Steam, coming to the Epic Games Store. So lots of movement for Fall Guys, putting it back in the conversation. And I am very interested to hear what your experience has been, because I know there's been a lot of talk in our Discord, at least, about kind of the performance on Switch and it kind of leaving something to be desired. I know I saw a couple folks in the chat discussing that, like, even like the menus were kind of laggy. Trendy Brendy, who's one of our supporters, wrote in and said, Fall Guys is fun, but I'm not crazy about the Switch performance. To get it to run better, other players' character models run at a lower frame rate and have their shadows removed. It's a bit of an adjustment compared to how I've been watching gameplay of it since it released. Playing a bit more, I noticed these techniques get sparser and sparser the further into the show you get, so it's probably dependent on the number of players you're participating with. But considering the way the game is designed, you're likely to be in those choppier rounds more frequently than the smoother ones. And Steve weighed in and said that he thought it was really jarring and noticeable, and that he's found himself playing it on Xbox instead of Switch. So with that kind of ground laid, like, how are you two getting on with it? Are you finding these things to be a problem? Especially like if you have played it on other platforms, like, how is that comparison holding up for you?
I played it on PS4 when it came out, and I was like, wow, this game is so fun. I wish it would come out on the Switch because I can play side by side with my boyfriend, or just like play it in a handheld, or, stream it. Yeah. And then I streamed it and played it on the Switch. Oh my God. I'm still going to play it because it's still playable. I'm just disappointed.
That's not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
It's playable. It's not the way you want to start a review. It's like,
my thing is, like, how much grace do we give games when the first day launch for online is a disaster?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, like, in my person, like, I really haven't got into online games until, like, well, there's Smash. I don't know if I count Smash. It's just because Smash is
it's kind of its own thing, but like, I get what you mean. Yeah. Like, it's technically an online game, but it's not like, it's not an online game in the way that like Fall Guys or like League of Legends or something, where it's like Fortnite, it's just online.
Yeah,
like that is kind of a different beast.
Cross-platform as well.
Yeah,
like, I don't really know how much like I'm supposed to like forgive games when they perform like this. Yeah. But like when I saw the low frame rate and like the way that affected, I was like, oh, I forgot I'm playing on Nintendo Switch, so 30 frame rate cap. Oh, that's so and like the menus, like it was such a nightmare trying to make a squad, like a party, and like send invites. Like there were also bugs on other platforms, but like only in regards to like party invites. So like Timberwolf was trying to connect from PS5. There's a bug for PS5 users where they're unable to like accept invites, something like that. So she had to move to another she had to move back to PS4.
That's so PlayStation, not wanting to play with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like, I guess let's see what happens as the hype dies down. Maybe it'll be better. But there's still the, the performance cap on the Switch hardware. So, I guess I should have known that was what was going to happen. Maybe that's why it took so long. It's the Nintendo Switch. But I I still had fun. I just, all in all wish it was just slightly better. Ugh.
How about you, Chewy?
Mhm.
How has that experience been for you? Similar?
So I have been out of town until literally like 30 minutes before we got on to record here. So I got to I've only played in handheld mode so far. Just had my Switch on me and that sort of thing. And I went into it kind of a bit later in the day. I'd seen people like tweeting about it. I'd seen people talking about it, and they're like, "Man, I'm having so much trouble connecting to stuff and getting games going with friends and that sort of thing." So I'm going into it, and I'm like, "All right, let's see how bad this is." And I got connected pretty quickly. I was like, "Oh, cool! I'm already in a game. Hey, I'm doing pretty well here." And so like immediately I was having fun. Of course, I could tell like, there's frame rate stuff going on. All the other Jelly Bean people move like little claymated set pieces compared to mine. So there's that. But outside of that, like, I connected pretty easily, that sort of thing. Later on in the night, I saw some friends were playing, and I was like, hey, invite me to this thing. I want to see how it is. And then they invited me, and then we got connected pretty quickly too. And I was like, I don't feel like I'm experiencing the problems that I'm seeing other people talk about on this. So for me, it was like pretty fine. I turned off the what is it, the rumble immediately, because it was like the obnoxious like standard rumble. I think a lot of games kind of start off having that launch on Switch. They just initially just have this like really strong rumble, and you're like, ooh, let me turn that off. Like I remember, I think Cozy Grove had this for like certain things. I was just like, this is turning it off. I don't need this in my life. Eventually they like level it out a little bit, have it more tuned to like the HD rumble stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is better. But yeah, I recommend turning that off if you play handheld Fall Guys right now. But yeah, for me, it was pretty fine. Fourth game in, I got my first win, and I was like, sweet, I just peaked. That's it. Won't do any better
The
than
end of my
this.
Fall Guys career, everybody.
Yeah. So.
I find that to be very interesting because, like, that's, I think, one of the things that I find most frustrating about being a Nintendo Switch player is, like, how much things like that seem to be, like, totally fucking random, where it's like, oh, yeah, I had a perfect experience, this thing that everyone else is complaining about. And it's like, that lack of consistency is annoying, right? Because, like, it's not a problem on other platforms, at least not in the same way. And it's funny because I usually keep Twitter open while we're doing the show, like in case like news breaks or whatever. And like, literally as we were saying this, I have a tweet here from one of our Patreon producers, Christian Oliveria, who said, how does Fall Guys run so atrociously on Switch? Half the players animate at 15 FPS. Some of them are just sliding without any animation across the level.
Standing.
The menu lags. And it's just like,
the menu lag is real.
That's rough,
it's
man.
bad.
That's not a good place to be. And we gotta wrap the show up here in a minute. But I'm disappointed by this. I'm not surprised, but I'm disappointed. I think this kind of like opens up a broader discussion that we've had off and on, and I think we had this like. We had an episode where Sierra was on and we were talking about Fall Guys and being like, oh, are we excited? Like, how's this going to go? And I remember expressing concern that, like, is this going to run well? Right? Because I feel like it
struggled when it came out earlier.
Sure. Yeah.
For people to connect and like on the PlayStation 4 and everything.
On consoles with good infrastructure. Or like PC, right? Okay. Yeah. That's where it's supposed to work. And it's like, I used to be one of those people who was like, port it to Switch. I want it on Switch. And like, I'm increasingly not that person because it's like, more and more, it's just like, man, these games don't run. Like, it's not worth it, right? Like, I don't want to play the lesser version of a game, right? Like, especially as somebody who is platform agnostic, right? Like, I have a PlayStation, I have an Xbox, I have a Switch, I have a PC, and a Steam Deck. Like, why would I play a game on Switch if it's going to be, it's locked at 30 FPS and the menus lag and the online shit, and it's like, You know, it's like why play it there then? You know, and
Thank
it's
God it's free.
yeah, seriously.
It's
Imagine if
free.
you had paid for this.
Yeah.
When this used to be a $20 game, right? Like that would sting, you know? And like maybe you can argue that it's okay because it's free to play, but it's also like I don't know, like I as somebody, you know, like I imagine myself being in your position, Sierra, right? Where it's like Nintendo's your primary platform. You don't have like another option that you don't share with somebody else. And it's like, that sucks. That sucks that you get the de facto worst experience with this game just because you want to play it on Nintendo. And it's like, why even bring it to the platform? You know, it's like,
Right.
And I think it just speaks to the fact that like, man, like we need a Switch too. We do. Like, it's time. It's time. We need new hardware. We need a fucking decent online infrastructure. Like, it's time. We're overdue. And I feel like until we get there, like, I'm going to look at every one of these kinds of announcements as like, okay, but like, it's like, oh, Kingdom Hearts is coming to Switch. It's like, is it though? You know, like, does anyone want to play it here? Or is it just like definitively the worst way you could experience this game?
Right, like what is even the point?
Yeah, it stings. It stings, especially because it's like, you know, people worked hard on it, right? It's not to say that like it's nothing against the team that ported it to Switch. It's 100% against the Switch, and that like there's certain kind of games that just don't work on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like key decision makers that laid the blueprint for a console to utterly fail any games that run optimally at a higher frame rate.
Or have like any online functionality unless it's called Splatoon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it sucks. It sucks, you know? And it's like I think it's something that like we've given Nintendo a pass on again and again, and like it's now I'm at a point where I'm like, for a long time it was kind of like Switch can do no wrong. It's a perfect platform. It's my favorite Nintendo console. And I still love the Switch. This is not me decrying the Switch, but it's like, it really is a bummer that we went into this summer being like, oh man, Fall Guys finally coming to Switch. We've been waiting for this. And then it's like not worth playing. And it's like, that sucks.
I know, right? Nah, yeah, like to your point, I know like I complain a lot about the Switch, but like it really is like I want it to be the best platform that it can be, the best console that it can be, because it's such a novel concept. But yeah, like, you know, when you can't run certain games, you have to see how they run in like tests and stuff. And then to still say like, yeah, print it. Like, I would say don't bother.
Yeah, like if the performance is not there, like don't push it, you know? Don't get it on the platform just to get it on the platform.
Like if you told me like, sorry, we can't do Fall Guys because it'll look like shit, I'd be like, understandable.
Oh well.
I will play it on something else.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, like I'm at the point where I'm like, I feel like we gotta do like a subathon fundraiser or something. We gotta get Sierra a Series S. You know, we gotta have you have another option. We gotta figure this out.
I do have PC. It's just I feel like my whole shtick is I'm the Nintendo guy, but I could easily just HDMI switcher play shit on Steam.
You just play it on Steam, but like with a Pro controller, and you're like, oh yeah, this patch is going really good on Switch now.
Someone would figure me out.
It's perfect.
I'm a Nintendo variety streamer, okay? Nintendo.
Nintendo, variety streamer.
That's how you do it. That's how you get it. There you go. It's perfect.
Like 1 point font. No one can say it's not there.
I love it. All right. So if y'all have any thoughts on that there Xenoblade 3, if you have any thoughts on your experience with Fall Guys, if you want to write in with something that has nothing to do with either of those things, guess what? You're in luck. There's a bunch of ways you can do that. Hit us up at questions@flipscreen.games. Head to our website, flipscreen.games, Jesus, and find a link to our Discord, our social media, all the places that you can write in, get involved, share your thoughts. And if you're cool and nice, just like these folks were, I'll read it on the air. Think about that. You know what? I'll even say, if you're like a little mean, that's probably okay too, okay? But just like at me or Steve, okay? Chuy and Sierra, they're my friends. Don't be mean to them. Steve... he and I deserve it, right? We deserve it a little bit.
If you fire it my way, I gotta learn how to grow a tough skin anyway. So
okay, all right. So you know what? Throw it all at Sierra for practice. You know,
exactly.
We'll take it that way then. That works. But yeah, write in with any of your thoughts on any of that stuff. If you want to write in with your own main topic, whatever, hit us up, because I'll tell you what, this Nintendo news this year, it's been sparse. So give me some stuff to chew on, all right? That's my challenge to you, the listener. And of course, you'll find links to our Patreon, our Twitch channel, all the other places we make content, wherever you get your stuff. We're out there making some stuff for you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a member of the community. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Nintendo Noise. Sierra, before we go, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, as always.
Of course. Let the folks know where they can find you.
I am on Twitch, twitch.tv/Sierra Plus Ultra. I stream a couple nights a week. You can also find me on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Just posted a video of me singing Wonderwall, but the lyrics are B-movie script. And
High art.
Nice.
High art.
Thank you.
Watch it, Chuy.
Everyone likes to make me suffer for my art. And I also am in a band called With Sales Ahead. Follow us on social media if you're ever interested to see a show near you.
Go check them out. They got a hot sauce, too. Burn my tongue.
I do. I know you're not a hot
I'm a
sauce
little
guy,
baby. I'm a little baby.
I appreciate you taking the plunge.
I tried it anyway. I had to support my friend. All right. So, yeah, thanks again for joining us, everybody. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Chewy. She's been Sierra. We'll see you next week.